Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. This is episode 233 with myself, Jim Fuhs, and this week's guest, Stefan Kaplan. So we've got a lot of news that we want to talk about this week. There's a lot happening across your social media channels, from LinkedIn Learning to IGTV Monetization, Facebook Monetization Manager, and much more. So I'm going to go and bring on Jim. Jim's filling in for Phil Gerbershak. So Jim, how you doing?
Doing great. It's good to see you, and excited for today's episode. Excited to have Stefan on. Stefan does a lot of really neat stuff, especially in the area of photography. He was formerly a supervising photo editor for the New York Times. He does a lot with the Pulitzer Prize winners as far as doing the photography involving that. And he's also an adjunct professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology in the area of social media. And so glad he could join us. We had him on the Tim and Jim show a couple months back, and really fascinating guy. And I'm sure he's got some great stuff to share with us.
Fantastic. So we're going to bring on Stefan. One thing also, like Jim, great seeing you, by the way. I know we chatted earlier because we're working on our summit. I'm going to go ahead and bring on Stefan. Stefan, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys today?
Great.
Doing great. So I know, go ahead.
I am so excited to be here. It's so wonderful because I feel like I've got something to do inside rather than just walk outside and, look around at people trying to dodge each other on the street, even though there aren't that many people on the streets up here in Ramsey, New Jersey. I walked by somebody yesterday who did a really big curve around me because I guess she didn't want to be even 6 feet next to me. So I'm a very social person. I am a hyper social person. So it really is affecting me tremendously. So thank you for being here and letting me be here with you guys.
Fantastic. I'm glad to have you on. I know we tried to get you on a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
So it's good to have you join us. I want to say this, like, stuff we're not going to talk about today. Like, we're going to briefly touch on, all of the stuff going on in the economy.
Right.
I don't want to make this show about that necessarily,
right.
Because it's just going to get people, hopefully it doesn't get them like more depressed.
No.
And I want to talk about like what all's going on, because there's a lot across our social media channels that, if you worry about all the negativity,
right.
I think that will actually bring you down a lot more. You have to push through and look at the positive.
I think that's a really great point, Christian. And, I know Jim agrees 100% on that. I have a good friend, David Beard, who's a really great journalist who has done many, many things. He used to work at the Boston Globe. He has worked with Pointer and many big journalism organizations, has one of the best feeds on Twitter. Called his handle on Twitter is Dabeard, Dabeard. And, he many times has said to people at conferences I've been at and just chats that, we control our social media. We really do. So if there's a lot of stuff that is taking you down on social media, then you need to do something about it. And you can do something about it by either getting rid of a lot of these people on your feeds, or, making sure there's more good news and productive stuff on your feeds. And not blocking, but mentally and otherwise blocking a lot of this stuff out,
Definitely. I think that, I think those are great points, and again, anything you go online and see, you're going to see people saying, well, hey, how do I, be more productive? How do I work from home? I think for me, like, one of the biggest things is that I think most of these people, actually, they're not prepared to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have either the equipment, or they just don't have the skills to necessarily do it, because it does. I can tell you firsthand, working for a Fortune 500 company, it takes a lot of dedication, and you can't just like, hey, I'm going to fire up my laptop. It's not, let's see, what's the word? It's grass isn't always greener on the other side, I guess. Maybe that's the right thing to say. So
I think that's, Jim, please, why don't you, I don't want to, Okay. So the thing that's really important right now with all of this is that this is.
I think he froze up there for a second.
So we'll have him right back.
Oh,
The
there
best. So what was that, Stefan? So you
No,
were
it's
saying
fine. It's
most
fine.
important? Oh,
I
sure.
think we went out for a second. So I was just going to say that this is really a defining moment in history for all of us as human beings and as brands. And we all are brands, no matter what size we are, small, medium, or large. Everybody's an individual brand. So I think that it's really important right now to focus on what we can learn from this moment. And as you said, without dragging everything down and talking about all the negativity, let's start talking more about the positive things and the productive things that we can learn from this moment, because this moment too shall pass. And when it does, we need to be ready to be able to continue with the path that we've been on and that we've set and reset, because a lot of people are at this moment now and are very confused and are also very worried, because I've said this for a long time, and so have colleagues of mine who I work together. You always have to build your network before you need your network. And that goes also for many other things in life with brands and their customers and everything else, is that if you have to relate to people and you have to relate to the world. And if all you're doing is always marketing, then you're going to get lost in the shuffle. And now this is a moment where a lot of people are trying to figure out, okay, well, I've always been about one thing. How do I now broaden the scope?
I think that's a great point. So, Jem, do you want to kick things off as far as topics that we talked about today?
Yeah, and actually, I think we've been hitting on a little bit, but let's talk about the fact that LinkedIn is offering some free courses to help people in the whole idea of working from home.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. You know, LinkedIn Learning, at being an adjunct professor at FIT, they have a huge, let me just say, treasure chest of options for LinkedIn Learning for professors and students. And I've recently started diving in more and more into LinkedIn Learning. And let me tell you, it is amazing. And everybody who can get into LinkedIn Learning should watch as many videos and lessons that they can. It is a wealth of resources.
Definitely. So basically the bottom line here is this. So LinkedIn has rolled out free LinkedIn Learning courses. Now, I want to make sure I clarify that, because Jem, you and I talked about this previously. It's not access to the entire LinkedIn Learning catalog. You know, it's primarily geared towards helping you work from home, helping you to be more productive, you know, how to build relationships with people when you're not face to face. So in a way, it's actually helping you build some of those skills that a lot of people are lacking, actually, unfortunately.
Right. And let me also throw kind of a plug in for, at least I know it where I live here in Cobb County, a lot of public library systems, even though they may be currently closed physically, if you have a library card, a lot of them have online access to the full version of whether it's LinkedIn Learning or Lynda for free because you're a member. And so it's another great opportunity for people. It kind of goes back to Stefan's comment about resetting and getting ready for what you're going to do when this is all over. I really think, you know, time block yourself some time to learn. Take a look at these. I love that even in these 16 courses, they're comparing some of the different tools. Like, you know, they have something about Zoom. I think they have something about, I think it's Office Teams, some of these things that you maybe never thought of. And even from the perspective of, and I know, Christian, you and I were talking about this earlier today, just setting yourself up for future success and having a plan next time as opposed to scrambling. So this is, I think, a great way for people to start thinking about, you know, how do I operate my business when things aren't always quite the way I want them, or continue to operate. I think people are going to find an opportunity to change how they run their businesses and see that it can still work.
I think, you know, I think Jim is absolutely spot on about that. And I'm so glad he brought up libraries, because I'm a huge fan of libraries and I work at my library a lot. I consider it my second office. And it's a pleasure to always be there. I lecture at the libraries. I started a lecture circuit before all of this happened. And I was teaching smartphone photography. But my point is that and in many towns, your taxes pay for all of this. You should take advantage of it. The libraries love for you to take advantage of all this stuff because it really increases their in-person and online circulation, and that helps them with getting funding.
Definitely. And I think this is a great point, and one thing I want to also, highlight here. So if you go through, like, there are 13 hours worth of content here. So so just think if people are like, if you're quarantined for like a couple of days or a couple of weeks, sorry, you could get one of these courses done per day. Hopefully I would hope that you would be able to get more than one, maybe a couple, because some of these are like 30, 40 minutes, some of them are an hour. This one's 18 minutes. Another thing I thought that was actually fascinating was that there's actually a significant drop off.
There we go. Drop off. Okay. You're back.
Taking the working remotely course, there's 56,000 viewers, and then it goes down to 53 for like time management. And then that's where like you start to see the big drop off.
Right. I think what you say is really important, Christian, because one of the other things is, there's a lot of stuff that we all want to learn right now, but even if we can just listen to a lot of these videos and soak up some of the knowledge and get in a groove of learning, because, we're all so busy sometimes doing that we need to sit back and reflect and think about, some of the broader scope and what is it that we can learn rather than just always trying to do. Sit back, think, and learn some more,
I think that's a great point. Jem, what advice do you have for people that want to actually get through some of these courses? So it's 13 hours of content. I want to see people succeed. So I would say this at the beginning of like every day, sit down before you've actually gotten into doing all of your work and study one thing, for example, take one of these courses. What do you think, Jem? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and I know that I have made a conscious effort, especially this past week, you still got to put yourself on a routine. So if it means setting the alarm clock and getting yourself up at a certain time, and maybe take those first 2 hours of the day when everything's quiet, especially for those folks that now the kids are all home and there can be a distraction, and do some learning, right? Take that 1 hour course or that 40-minute course, then maybe read a book, part of a book, and then get your day going. But time blocking right now and having a plan is so important to set yourself up in a sense to be future ready. And I think, my kids' old school system in North Carolina, whether they meant to do it or not, had started working with Microsoft several years ago. Kids from 3rd to 12th grade all have laptops that they're able to take home and work on.
See that?
So I think this is a great opportunity for people to learn some skills that they've been. I think Stefan, really all three of us, being in the marketing and teaching space, understand how things are constantly changing. Well, now here's a chance for you to actually take a look at some of this stuff.
That's right.
And see how it applies or doesn't apply to your business or your professional life.
So Stefan, what do you have any other tips as well that you want to share before we move on to another topic? So how can somebody get through this? Because, I could tell you, I think, Jem, you and I talked about this last week, that we've purchased courses and we've not necessarily gotten through them. What do you think, Stefan? And any tips you want to share with viewers?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we dropped off for a second, but I get the gist of what you were just asking. The thing is that let's take prime examples here, real life examples. Nothing's better right now. So I haven't done a lot of teleconferencing. Actually, I've been a part of a lot of teleconferences and many things, but I'm not the one that's always initiating them. I'm not the one setting up the big meets and getting everything set, calendar invites for them, all this stuff. So one of the things I did this week was each day I just set out to learn something new. So I refined my skills in Zoom. With videos and everything else. I got friends on and to practice with me, including Kevin McKenna, who's the deputy managing editor of the business section at the New York Times. We got on for an hour together and we practiced some things. And then the next day I went to Uber conference and I set up my own Uber conference line. Now I can have up to 10 people on at a time. I'm doing all these things little by little to increase my knowledge and skills of this, not just thinking about it,
And Jem, you and I talked about this earlier today. We talked about because we were recording some podcast episodes for our Launch Your Live podcast show that we've been working on. And we talked about how it was about getting better just 1% each day. Doing even instead of, like you said, Stefan, instead of just talking about something, let's actually move the needle. What do we do to move things forward? If I want to launch a new website, I get my logo together. Maybe I just do a basic WordPress install, any of that kind of stuff. So that's, I think, again, it's doing little steps to move you forward. Just always be moving versus, like just being stationary. So,
well, there's two things. You always be moving is going to be a great new line to say to people because it's the truth. It's not just a line. The other thing is my colleague Sri Srinivasan, who I work with a lot, who's one of the foremost social media and tech experts out there, who is a professor at Stony Brook University right now. Sri's always saying the ABCs. Sorry. Always be learning. Sorry. We used to use ABCs to always be creating, but right now, with not going out that much, we're not creating as much, but always be learning, every chance you get. And your point is really important. Set a time in the morning, like Jim said, get up early. My brain I'm so mentally fatigued from everything that's going on late at night that I used to be a night owl because I worked for many, many years at the New York Times from 3 to almost midnight on what was called the lobster shift. And well, yeah, not a lot of people use that term anymore, right? But I used to get out of work at 11 o'clock at night and get home by midnight. And that's always been in my blood, in my DNA. But the thing is that now my brain is so mentally fatigued from everything that's going on that I'm finding it better to wake up early in the morning, even at 5, 6 in the morning and setting myself then rather than nodding at my computer at night,
Exactly. Yeah. I think and I think those are great tips that everyone shared. So Jem, where do you want to go next? We talked about these new LinkedIn learning courses that are being offered for free. Again, I dropped the links to the remote working course, basically, that LinkedIn has published. You take those, they'll give you, a certificate that'll obviously go on your LinkedIn profile as well. But where do we want to go next?
Let's get into a little bit of camera stuff because I know Stefan is a photographer. Let's talk about IG or Instagram is coming out with a dual camera mode.
So what in the world do we have going on here?
Yeah, what's going on with this?
I've got a screenshot here or a short little animated GIF. I don't have this, but Jem, what do we have?
Well, it looks like you almost can do a picture in picture and move it around. I don't have it yet either. I've looked for it. It'll be interesting, I guess, from a creator standpoint, and especially I know with all the stuff that Stefan likes to do with photos. How would you see using something like this, Stefan?
It's a really interesting thing. I have not seen this, I'll be honest with you. And it's something that I'll say this, whatever comes out app-wise, there's always a way to find a way to just create something new and something really cool. I always tell people, experiment. We have all these things at our disposal. The problem is a lot of people sit on this stuff, and it all goes back to what we said initially, doing instead of just letting it be there. I mean, take these apps before the moment hits where you need to use them. Start experimenting with them, even on the smallest scale, because once you start using them, you'll realize how productive they can be, or that you never want to see them again in your life.
Yeah. And the one thing for me, at least, so if I'm a business, I will say this, I feel, since I don't have this, I feel that it's actually a requirement to have a device with potentially one of the dual camera setups. So like maybe the iPhone 11 or the 11 Pro Max. That's what I think you have to use this. Again, I'm speculating here because I don't have it. But I know most of the apps that do this sort of dual camera setup, they do require it. Now, I think this could be a useful thing if you want to do, like, for example, say you want to do screen recording of your like desktop. There are apps where you can record your screen. You can be in a little bubble in the corner. So I think that's part of what this will be. But if I'm a business, what do you think I could do with this? Like, can you guys think of any creative ways to use this?
I think you just hit on a great point, right? Like maybe you're showing with the back camera the item and you, the person, is talking about it.
Okay.
If that's how it's actually going to work. Like, is it going to be photo/video, we're not really sure yet, other than being dual camera. So I think that could be quite fascinating. And people forget how powerful these phones are now. I mean, they're more powerful than our desktop computers were, a few years back. So that's one way I would see possibly doing it. Maybe interview type. I don't know. That's
that's a good one actually as well.
No, I think Jim's spot on again with that. Is that the thing? So, for example, you can, if you wanted to talk as a photographer about a photo, and you're live on the video, you can then display the photo. So there's an example right there. That's, in fact, you just gave me a great idea, Jim. Once this is why this is another thing that's important in this day and age, more than anything, brainstorming, chatting about things with friends and colleagues such as yourselves, and figuring out things as we all go along here. This is a great thing, actually. You put a photo up, and me as a photographer who would love to talk about a photo, well, I can be live and I can show the photo in the corner there now. There you go.
A great point. Actually, I'm gonna go into this. I got two other examples. So if I'm a real estate agent, I can see a real estate agent doing this, where they're doing basically a navigation of a walkthrough at a house.
Yep.
I don't know how long the videos are necessarily can be recorded for on this, but I think that would be a great way. To your point, Stefan, as well. Say I'm an artist. Like I'm a for example, I mean, it's so easy to do this. Like you could say, okay, hey, I'm a musician. Why don't I actually teach people, what I'm actually doing on the mixing board, for example? If I'm a chef, for example, I could also be on camera, and I could be, it's almost like having a GoPro on your head or something like that. But I could actually be showing like what I'm actually cooking. I'm able to actually tap into use the device for much more than just like, weird, like, let me flip the camera around and type thing. This actually lets me do things, I think, all at once. But
absolutely. I think the real estate idea is a great idea. Actually, you could even put a photo of the house, as you're walking around the house. You could put a photo of the house up in the corner there, so people can constantly see the house that you're walking around in.
Yeah. And again, you don't have to do it either way. Like you could do the dual camera where, like you said, the camera is it could be the person, it could be the house, and then you're on the other side. I mean, I love the ideas actually.
Yeah.
Anything you want to share for this? I mean, it seems so basic, but there's so much utility, I think, to get people out there.
No, I think it's really great. And I think one of the bad moves that Facebook did, they said they weren't getting enough traction, just going off topic here for a second, but it's still relevant, is they had the ability to bring guests on, when you were doing Facebook Live, and have them in the corner of the screen. You can do one-on-ones now, but you can't do that anymore. And I think that's a big, I think that's something that Facebook should definitely bring back. But the benefactors of this are great apps and platforms like StreamYard.
Definitely. So, Jim, anything else you want to add for this feature?
I mean, I think it goes back to what Stefan's talking about, right? When you start to get a chance, play around with this stuff. My friend Mike Alton brought up a while back, and I've started to do it more. And I know Stefan loves doing this, and I'm sure when we get into some of the questions we're going to ask him later, just going around and taking photos and not having, in a sense, a plan, but just remember, like, hey, I should take a photo of this. It might come in handy later, and trying to get into that mindset. And that's where I think something like this camera could be a lot of fun.
Definitely. I'm excited. I hope I get this. I don't have it, but I'm excited to get this.
Jim, do you know if that's only available for Apple, for Apple phones or iPhones, or for Droid as well?
I do not know yet.
I haven't seen it on my Droid, so I think it's only for Apple first.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question. So like I was trying to figure this out, and I know there are multiple apps that they do require you to have, the iOS, the iPhone 11 or the 11 Max Pro. Or even like the iPhone X models, but I'm not able to figure out if that's like which model you need, or whether this will be iOS or Android. Normally most of the dual camera apps, like Jen, you and I were looking at I think it was called Double Take. It's an app by Filmic Pro, and it does this. It requires having a newer device. I suspect this is the same type of functionality. When we figure it out, we'll definitely let everyone know. But where we go next, Jim?
So let's start to talk about monetization. Let's go talk about IGTV monetization first.
So everybody wants to, they want to be generating revenue. I will say this. I mean, how do you guys feel about giving stuff away for free right now? I realize that's a loaded question, but
I think you have to help people as much as you can. And so, yes, there's a fine line, and I hate to say that I do think that there's people out there that are going to try to take advantage of people. But I think that'll all come out in the wash. I've been through a couple of hurricanes in the past, and I've seen that as well. But I think this is really within. And I think even you said, right, when we were talking earlier, this is to challenge YouTube, which monetizes. So really, I think it's a good move on Instagram's part, because I think they've struggled with giving people a reason to use IGTV. Well, now here gives you a reason to say, oh, I need to start putting some content out there, so that, I don't know if it's going to be based on number of viewers or those sort of things, but now you got a chance to maybe get a couple nickels off your content on Instagram.
What do you think, Stefan? So I mean, the bottom line here is Instagram is trying to obviously kind of copy YouTube's advertising model with IGTV ads. They're not rolling these out to everyone at the moment, which makes a lot of sense, because YouTube, as we know, they backtracked on monetization. They didn't want everyone to have it. Now you have to have, a certain number of subscribers and a certain number of hours watched, or consecutive hours watched the content. What do you think about this? Is this a good move, bad move by YouTube or Instagram? Sorry.
No, I think it's a good move. But, first getting back to your point about freebies, and everything else, I think that this is, really important at this point in time to understand that there's a certain amount of help that we need to give. And there's also a certain amount of productivity that still needs to go on. I mean, this is I'm getting asked for a lot of things too right now. And I love to share the knowledge and everything else. And I do a tremendous amount. And I share about other people. I think one of the things that we can mainly do to help the most right now is share other people's content. That's really important. I think that's a very pro bono way of helping a lot of people. A lot of people don't think of it that way, but it is. When I share content on my timelines, I'm helping you. And I want to help you, and that is a big thing for many. But no, I think this is a good move. I mean, I think Instagram's doing a good thing with this.
Definitely, and back to the point of like whether people should give content or give their services away or not give them away. I mean, I feel like there's a certain point. Yes, like people they should do it out of the kindness of their heart. I think that, if I'm a business and I'm struggling, I really need to question how I'm actually running that business, because, you can't don't expect somebody to do something just because your business is struggling, because for every business that's struggling, there's going to be a ton of other ones as well that are struggling, and if everybody gives everything away, their services and whatnot, then I think it's going to be hard at that point. Like, you're going to take a whole bunch of businesses out. So, again, you just, yes, it's good to give some things away, but not everything. In this case, IGTV advertising, I like that they're doing this. I think as a business, if I'm not using IGTV, and this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, which is, now is a good time to be experimenting with things. Yes, people's feeds are going to be clogged with, here's ways I'm productive at home. Here are ways that, how do I work from home? All of those kinds of things. You're going to see a lot of those topics, but I think you need to spend time consuming, getting some more education on things, and B, retooling potentially your strategy. I think you'll come out ahead in the long run, especially with this one.
I think one of the big balances that people are going to have to strike right now, because I've been observing this, one of the things I am about social media and visuals is a student of the game, so to speak. I'm always studying what's going on and trying to figure out the real psychology behind everything. And social aspects. What's important right now is there are a lot of people that are trying to find, and I want to put this the right way, of course, they're trying to humanize everything.
Yeah.
Oh, he's stuck for a second.
So they're trying to humanize everything. Stefan, let's see if he comes back. And by the way, this is one of the challenges. So you were saying they're trying to humanize everything.
Well, they're trying. Everybody wants to be, everybody's trying to show how they're coping with everything. But I think there needs to be a good balance strike between what's going on in our lives, what's too comical, and also putting forth the important points about our lives, and not just making everything into these funny moments and everything, these lighthearted moments.
Right. I think that's a good point. Jim, anything you want to add as well to this about IGTV?
No, I mean, yeah, but I think that was a great point by Stefan, right? When people, because some people say, oh, you shouldn't market your business, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, right now, right, here's an opportunity to start thinking, all right, okay, IGTV is going to monetize.
Mhm.
How does my business prepare for this? Is it now time for me to take some of my longer form video, repurpose it to fit the platform, and start, do one video a week to start if that's what it takes. But what are you going to do and does it fit into your business? It may not be for everyone. So,
right.
Well, Jim's very big on this, and I really appreciate him always saying that, is we always have to find, and I back him up on this 100% because I say it a lot too, is you don't have to be on every platform, and you don't have to be utilizing everything that's out there. Find what works best for you. Also what you're best at, because when you do if you use the apps and the platforms that you're best at, your best work will shine through.
I think that's a great point, and also, I mean, keep in mind, like with all of this, with all of this that is going on right now, I mean, it's really also about being respectful as well. Tim mentioned, that someone asked the question, if people are grieving, for example, would we sell at a funeral? No, you wouldn't sell, you would offer to help. Even if it's free for now. I mean, I do agree, like, again, to a point, like if your business can't support giving something away for free, you do have to, be careful about, how much you give away. And because again, you're running a business, so keep that in mind.
Well, and that's an important point at this thing, Christian. We don't, like you said, we don't want to bring people down about everything, but we also have to talk about reality. Unemployment and a lot of other things. There's going to be a major, this is going to be a long road, folks. And we all have to buckle in, but we have to always remember that balance it between sharing and doing for ourselves as well, and making sure that we earn a living and everything else. But Tim Sohn, Jim's partner in a lot of things, is doing something wonderful right now, which I applaud him for tremendously. He's trying to help people learn a little more about live streaming, and he's offered his services up for that for a lot of small businesses. Because let me tell you, small businesses right now, corporations are getting hit. We know that airlines are getting hit right now. The hotel business is getting hit right now, but small businesses too is going to take a wallop from this. And it's wonderful if we can all give back a little to help them.
Yep, exactly. And it's not, and you don't have to give back everything. Just give back a little bit. I mean,
right.
Do certain things here and there, but be respectful of somebody as well. Like,
Can I give a quick example of something?
Yeah, sure.
So I started a thing where every day I'm posting a photo of me and somebody that I know to make people just smile a moment in the day during this really hard time we're going through. And I'm starting a thread on it, posting it every day on each platform, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. But my point with this is that, so take, for example, a brand, how they can simply take photos if they've had them in the past of them and their customers and other things, and just do shout outs every day to people saying, hey, we're thinking of you. We're all in this together. And it's transparent, it's honest, and it's human. These people have supported you all along. Now make sure you remember them and that they're in your thoughts, and that you're caring about them and you're thinking about them,
Definitely. I think those are all really good points. So, Jim, do we have any other topics we want to discuss today? Or
yeah, let's hop over from IGTV monetization to talk about Facebook's new monetization tool.
So, what is this new monetization tool?
Well, I think it looks like they're providing you a lot more detail in managing it. I know you had mentioned that this is something that you were taking a hard look at, a lot more, because I really haven't done the deep dive on monetization on Facebook. I think I've been more looking at like, hey, I want to get more YouTube subscribers. Because some of the things, especially with video to monetize on Facebook, you really got to reach quite a level to get into their little ballpark as far as number of viewers, watch time, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest. So I think the big part to a lot of this is you have to build a community. If you want to get the revenue to take off, you got to build a community, and then you need to look at the metrics to see how things are actually going. I mean, the numbers don't lie. So like, if you don't have, if you're seeing a big downturn, like people aren't seeing your content, don't expect the revenue to go up. And so this monetization manager, it's a very useful tool for help, if you're using Facebook's audience network. It's a great tool for helping you see like which ad placements are working, which ones are not, which ones are generating the most revenue, and using that to help you guide you in making decisions, I think. If I'm a business right now, like Stefan, what do you think a business could do with Facebook Monetization Manager?
Well, I think, one of the things is, like you said, the numbers don't lie. So you have to know the metrics. You have to understand everything that's going on that way. But one of the things I want to hit on with this, because I'm always giving the more, psychological analysis of some of this, is that the messaging in a lot of what we're doing has to be on point. The visuals have to be on point. All of that, of course, will increase your crowd coming into you, staying in tune with you. And I think that, one must be on top of the metrics with this. So I'm not also like Jim, I haven't explored this as much, but the messaging, in my opinion, and everything else, and the visuals, if they're on point, it will help all the numbers, and your crowd will appreciate everything that you're doing out there.
Definitely. Jim, anything you want to add about Facebook Monetization Manager?
No, I don't really think there's much more to add on this one, but let's maybe move to the next topic involving Facebook, which I really think could be exciting for people. Is Facebook is going to be doing some business grants of up to $100 million.
Wow.
30,000 people, 30 countries. The details are still to be fleshed out, but it's good to see that they're doing the part to help people. And I like the fact that it's a grant program and not a loan program.
Definitely, and it may seem a little bit limited. I mean, they're giving ad credits and cash grants to up to 30,000 eligible small businesses in over 30 countries. Again, they're also trying to work, so they're trying to still work out some of the details here. But again, I mean, you can sign up for updates on this if you want to learn about Facebook's Small Business Grants Program. Definitely something I think you should check out if your business is one that's been hit hard. Definitely check that one out. What do you guys think as far as a business? What do I do? Should I go try to apply for this? What should I do with this?
I mean, if you think it's something that's going to help you and that you fall into the category that they're looking for, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I think, listen, small businesses need to do everything they can to stay on track, especially right now, and get back on track and hang in there with this. I think any opportunity that you can get. So, listen, I applaud Facebook for doing this, and I think that it's it's really important. It's really important.
Are you going to go and sign up for this, or are you going to sign up for this?
No, I won't personally, because I have a million other things going on right now. But I do think that some small businesses, should. Listen, explore it, read it over, see what it's about. Don't just pass it over and say, what a lot of people are going to say. Oh, well, I'm not going to get that grant from Facebook, so why bother? I mean, if you did that with everything in life, then you'll never succeed with anything.
Right.
And what we say at the beginning, we said, hey, move things forward 1%. So, right now, the easiest thing to do with this is sign up for their notification. So when they do roll out the Small Business Grants Program, you can learn more about it and actually see if you are eligible, rather than, discounting the fact that hey, my business doesn't necessarily have a large amount of fans, for example, or I don't generate a lot of engagement. You never know, it could be a lottery. Who knows? It's hard to tell how Facebook's going to use this.
Right.
So if I'm a business, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go test this. I'm going to go sign up for it. Big deal. I get a couple of emails. I can always unsubscribe, and I have a good chance, I think, of taking advantage of the Facebook Small Business Grants Program.
This is the time for many big companies to step up to the plate right now, and not just they all do a lot in certain ways, but now they can do even more. And they need to reach out to other segments that they haven't reached out to right now in society, and people that are going to be affected across the board with what we're going through. So grants, help in any way that can be possible from all these big companies needs to be done. So I mean, Bill and Melinda Gates, for example, are always doing things with all that money. And you know what? They're great philanthropists, and thank God we have people like that in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, Jem, where do we want to go? Do we want to cover any more topics? Do we want to move into talking?
Let's move into talking with Stefan about the questions we gave him before the show.
So, for those of you who have, we have lots and lots of topics to talk about this week that we aren't going to get to. We've got some additional, we've got some Snapchat topics. We've got the new YouTube Explore feature that's replacing the trending tab. We've got Facebook container from Firefox, which I think is also really fascinating for protecting your Facebook data, protecting your data from Facebook. If you want to get those, just go to socialstiffs.com/daily. That'll get you the daily email that we send out, which will have the blog post recap, all the questions that we're going to talk with Stefan about here, and also the tools that we're going to cover on Tool Time. So with that, I'm going to move into we're going to chat with Stefan for a couple of minutes here. So Stefan, you do a lot of work with photography, right?
Right. So quickly, in a real quick summary here, my background is I spent 20 years at the New York Times, 15 of which were as a supervising photo editor for the Wire service. I was also a freelance photojournalist, and I still am, of course. And then I became a social media and visual consultant, and I've been that for the past 8 to 10 years. Okay. Now, the thing that I realized is that I took my journalism background and mixed it with my visual background and my my passion for social media, and that's where I started my own brand called Spin It Social. I'm Spin It Social across the board on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't have a brand page because, interestingly enough, my life is very transparent. I don't put my family stuff online and other things. I'm all about the arts and creating and visuals and communication. So my personal page on Facebook, which is Stefan Kaplan, and I have Spin It Social in the URL as well. I customized my URL. You can find me there and friend me. My life is an open book that way, so I don't have a problem with this. But everywhere else, I'm Spin It Social. So anyway, I do a ton of consulting, but I work with the Pulitzer Prizes. I've worked with AARP. I've worked with Encore.org, and I work a lot with Sri Srinivasan.
So, we talked beforehand. We said, hey, you're big into photography. Mm-hmm. We have a couple questions for you that we want to, or 3 questions for you. To have you share some tips with viewers or people who are tuning in to the podcast as well. So, do you mind if we ask you a couple questions?
I dropped off. Okay, I got you now.
So, do you mind if we ask you a couple of questions about
photography? Please, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. So, the first question we want to know, what are, and this doesn't have to be 3 exact, but business, they've got all this downtime right now. Right. What are 3 photos that they should have at their disposal, that they can easily share with a client or, on their own social media channels?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really tough question, actually. And I was thinking about it a lot. Of course, you always want a very personable and great, for example, if you have a team, you should have a great team photo, but I'm not talking the Ken and Barbie team photos, this polished, spit perfect image of everybody. Take something real. As I always say, keep it real, be transparent, and it'll reflect who you are to your customers and about your brand. Okay. The second thing is right now is, Jim knows, I'm all about creating things. Everybody on your team should always be looking for things to help put forth visually. So if we're we're all supposed to stay shelter in place, so to speak, but we're allowed to take walks and everything else. If you're out for a walk by yourself and you see something interesting, something that speaks about the moment we're at in life or something else, take it and figure out a way to humanize it and to put forth a really important message about something. I did that just the other day with a photo that I took of a really perfect birdhouse that was hanging on this tree. And oddly enough, it dawned upon me, it looked just like a little mini house. So I said something like, this is how we're all probably feeling right now in this time we're in. And it's just making me think a lot about how difficult this is on so many people.
Be back in a second.
We're drawing this chalk art on the street that said, Corona time. Now, kids are kids. They're going to express their feelings in many ways, but these youngsters were sitting there and they were drawing something beautiful on a nice sunny day. And obviously it's on their mind, and we have to keep that in mind too, that we have to talk to our kids about this and make sure we understand what's going on in their heads right now with all of this. But there's many ways to share what's going out there in society, and brands should do that. Small brands should do that.
Definitely. So how do I do some of these from home? I know, like, if I wanted to take, for example, a candid team photo, I would probably say, hey, pull up a Zoom or do something kind of like what we're doing right now and grab a quick photo there. But what are there ways that I can, take some of those photos, for example?
Well, this is the thing. Okay, we have to, once again, we have to think about the moment we're in. So we're all working individually right now, right? We're not even in groups. So what you're saying is really something, wow, look at how life has changed. We can't even get our team together to take the photo. So one of the things I've been doing during this thing right now, and I'm going to do it right now, so everybody smile. All right, there we go. I just took a snapshot of my screen with all three of us.
Nice.
So guess what? I have a photo now of all three of us to put out there and talk about our experience today of being together, even though we're not together in real life, right? New way of thinking about this right now, folks. Now, I'll give you a quick tip. When you're doing these screenshots of people online, like we just did, I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, everybody smile. Here we go. Is that you want to make sure that you're taking good screenshots. Okay, Tim's laughing, but he knows exactly where I'm going with this.
Right.
It would be so embarrassing and so wrong if you put a photo out there where Jim's looking like this, and Christian, you're looking like, and I'm like, it's just wrong. So take a bunch of the screenshots or get them ready for a minute, take a screenshot, and there you go. You have something else to use image-wise rather than being without anything, right?
Great. I think those are great. Those are great tips, actually. So going into the other question we had for you, by the way, you talked about tools and apps and things like that. Are there specific tools or apps that you recommend that people should use to either improve their photos for their social media channels, or help them take better photos? I realize, obviously, get a better device,
right?
But what do you think?
Yeah, always get a better device.
So what's your take?
I'll be right back.
There we go. I operate my Samsung S10, and I buy a new one I lease a new one every year. So I have the best of the best when it comes out. But app-wise, I will say two things. There are two apps that everybody should learn about and create with right now, and it's crucial, especially if we're dealing with the need to figure out new ways of presenting things. One is Adobe Spark Post.
Okay. Yep.
And the other one is the one that we all read about this year that made a lot of money before all this happened, and now they should be doing really well too because people need to use it. Is Canva.
Yep.
I think so. Yesterday, I was sitting around and I'm thinking, I started a new thing yesterday where I posted on Twitter, not Instagram yet, but Twitter, Facebook, and today I'm going to do LinkedIn, where I'm starting one-on-one social media consulting and coaching. And I found a photo of myself that a photographer friend of mine, my buddy who put my first camera in my hands years ago, Ronaldo Robinson at RMR Pictures, took a great photo of me on the High Line, and I used it, and I did it in Canva, and I put my Spinach Social name on it and a little light bulb next to it. It came out really nice. Can I screen share it with you for a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as this comes up, we're going to bring it up. So we got Adobe Spark Post and Canva, two really useful tools.
Is it up?
Not seeing it yet, actually. You should see it
right there.
So,
can you see it right there?
I'm not seeing it, actually.
You're not seeing it. Okay.
Did you use the share screen option? And
I got it right here. Here we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay. So hold on a second. Let me make sure. So this is it right there. Can you see it now?
Yes. Actually, click up. What are your browser's actually showing?
My browser's actually showing. Okay. Hold on one second.
You want to make sure you pick the there it is. We can see it now.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so this photo right here of me sitting on the High Line, I simply took it in Canva. It's a high-res photo. I put it into my phone from my computer, and I went on to Canva, and I found this light bulb, and I made sure the colors were right with the background of the steel frame there, the steel beam that's on my left, and I put my Spin It Social name on it with the light bulb. My friends also noticed my friend's watermark on the bottom, which I did not cut off because he took the photo, and I want to make sure he gets credit. But anyway, so that's an example. I'll stop sharing this now. That's an example of something I did right on the spot yesterday. And I did this all in one afternoon. I put a post out about my new business of coaching, and I used that, and all my friends are sharing it, and I really appreciate it. But that's how easy Canva and Spark Post are to use. And get in there, dig into them, these tools, and start learning those too.
Definitely. So I think those are great tools. So we're going to make sure that we put all of this in the blog post, recap the tools that Stefan mentions, as well as the different photographs, and we'll try to actually get some examples as well from Stefan if you have them.
Right. So I wanted to mention one thing. This is really important. Brands can really do this right now, and I think everybody should learn this, period. One of the things I've become a big fan of doing, I latched onto this recently by, what do I do, Jim? Just create, right? Well, I started getting big into stories on Facebook and Instagram. And then I realized, you can download these stories. You can download the photo that you've created in stories with this great imagery. And if you go to my Instagram feed at Spin It Social, you can check out some of the ones I've created. Now with videos, so you can download this, my point is, the photo with this new creation you did with special effects and stickers and everything else. And then if you download it, you can then use it cross platforms. You can use it on on Twitter. You can use it on Facebook. You can use it on LinkedIn if it's proper. I mean, if it's apropos, so to speak. Now, make sure that what you're posting on certain platforms is the best thing that you should be using on another platform. Just because you're posting something on Facebook doesn't mean you should post it on LinkedIn, and vice versa with Twitter and Instagram, all around. So my other point is that with videos with this, now be conscious of the fact that if you want to download a video that you've created in a story that has some music on it or some audio, it may not necessarily allow you to do that, and it'll come up and you'll be able to use it, but there will be no sound. Why? Because it's proprietary. So when you create these Instagram stories that have music to it, like you did a thing for International Women's Day that had Alicia Keys' Girl on Fire song put to it. Well, I could use that on Instagram and Facebook, but I wasn't able to then download it, which I did anyway, and tweeted it out because the visual was cool, but the music did not show up because Alicia Keys and whoever it is that Arista, whoever her company is, record company, it's proprietary.
Definitely. So I think those are great points. With that, we're going to move into tool time real quick. We're going to share a couple more tools with everyone. So the first tool that we're going to share this week, by the way, so like each week we try to come up with tools or hardware that can help you as a business. And in this case, we were talking a lot about Canva today for photography. The tool I want to first talk about is InVideo. Now, on the surface, this actually is basically, in my opinion, this is Canva for video. Have you had a chance to actually use this or test it out?
I have not yet, but it definitely looks very interesting. If you wanted to share you're sharing my screen, I'm going to kind of scroll up and people can see it here. But you can see how it's got all these templates similar to Canva, and then you can also size them based for stories. You can do articles to video, which is always a fun thing to do. We've highlighted some other programs that'll let you do that. And then you can also start out with that blank template.
Yes.
My only, and this is just me because I'm always looking out for the small business.
Right.
What I don't necessarily like, and I think you just have to look. And so this is the yearly price. So it's $120 a year. If you go to monthly, it's $20 for the startup thing, and they do have a trial, but you have to look here. There's some limits. There's a limit in how many video exports you can do per month. They also have a limit in how many photos and videos you can get a month at the $20 level. And so there are some other tools. I think even the tools that Stefan brought up with, as an example, Adobe Spark, you know, you can do Spark video. And the other thing that Adobe's really famous for is they have a lot of free photos that you can use for commercial purposes, and there's no limit. Not to mention, Spark is free unless you decide you want to get the branded version. So I think it's definitely got capability that you might want to check out. I don't know that it's for everybody. I'm always not a fan of anytime, you know, maybe it's like, I just don't like limits at my age. So I'll be honest, right? I don't like you telling me I can't do something unless I give you more money for a tool. So that's one of the things, you know, and that's, but I think it's got some great stuff. I mean, I know we've talked about Wave Video before. There's a lot of tools out there. Find what you're comfortable with, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of tools and you're not going to use any tool. So, you know, I think Canva and Adobe Spark, to Stefan's point, are great starting points. And then if you really want to start to look at this other stuff, you can do that. So that's kind of my perspective for InVideo. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I agree with Jim 100%. And, you know, I think it's really important also that, especially given the road that we're going to be on right now, that everybody be very careful with every penny that they're throwing around. And I think that there's so many great tools out there that we can use that we don't necessarily always have to give more money for certain options. But if it serves you well, then rightfully so, go with it. But just be really careful in terms of how many things you're subscribing to right now and throwing your money around as small business owners. Be very conscious of it, the bottom line. And if I may throw in one quick thing here, since we're speaking about creating in visuals, once we get past this turning point and we're all allowed to walk outside again and breathe the air together and feel together again, I can hardly wait for that moment already. Is that businesses need to think about doing this. Always think about creating your own stock image library with things in daily life before that time comes where you need them. Everything in life can be documented and create things. Find moments in life. Get your team to pool all their photos together and create your own stock image data bank that you can use. And then you always don't have to have all these stock image photos that are just perfectly made and look like they're catalog photos. Jim knows I have a hot foot for this.
I think these are actually great points. Definitely fantastic points. You know, and overall, I mean, again, test out the tool, see what you like, see what you don't like about it. You know, and like I said, there's a lot of options. To me, this is like video. It's like the Canva for video. So the second tool I want to talk about real quick is a tool called Yellow Duck. Name sounds a little weird. Not exactly sure. You know, that doesn't tell me anything about the tool really. But basically, what it does is it's an Instagram live video tool. It allows you to stream Instagram from your desktop. So do you want to tell people about this one?
Yeah, so I actually played with this the other day. I've tried it twice. So Yellow Duck, you're going to download it to your Mac or your Windows computer, and then you're going to log into your Instagram account, and it's going to give you a RMTP key, so to speak. So you're going to have a web link and a key that you're going to put into a tool. Like in my case, I did StreamYard, because StreamYard will let you do RMTP, and they've got some other description of what you can do. And so I actually, sitting on my computer, went live on Instagram for about 30 seconds. I didn't say anything. I was just kind of playing with it. And it then saved to my stories. It gives you that option. I did try it a second time. I was trying to multi-stream, and for some reason the link didn't work. So it could have been operator error, but it did work. I think for some people, right, it might be worth it, because sometimes it's hard to be walking around with your phone in your hand doing a good live. And so I'm curious to see, you know, I may try it again on Instagram. Am I able to see the comments, or do I need to have my phone set aside separately where I can watch the comments as they're happening. So maybe I can respond to my audience. So definitely interesting. I know this has been the one thing that many people want, is the ability to live stream to Instagram in an easier way than their phone. So, and some people may be concerned because, like, I even had to do some special things to allow the Mac to download it. It's like, hey, we don't trust this company sort of thing, but I went ahead and did it. My computer hasn't blown up yet. And it may be the same thing with Windows. It may have you download a couple of packages that you're, concerned with. But if you've got good antivirus, I wasn't overly concerned in that regard. So, definitely worth checking out. Worst thing is you just, it doesn't cost anything. So worst thing will happen is just say, it's just not for me.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about all along, which is try things out, play with them, experiment. What do you have to lose? I mean, you might latch on to something that's going to really just spark your creative juices. And once your creative juices get sparked, look out. I mean, that's when the magic happens.
Definitely, I think those are all great points there. So with that, I'm gonna wrap things up here. I mean, again, there's not a whole lot to Yellow Duck. Again, test it out. Works with many tools. So if you want to use like StreamYard, you can use Yellow Duck with StreamYard. You can download OBS, which is a free download. Wirecast, it's a paid download. Basically, anything that supports RTMP.
Right. Hey, Christian and Jim, if I may, right now, since we were talking about earlier and throughout the show about helping each other with a lot of things, this is not about me. This is about colleagues of mine who put together a wonderful conference this Saturday online called Social Media Weekend. It's Sri Srinivasan's flagship event every year. We were going to hold it live at Pace University. Now we're doing it live online on Saturday. If you look up the hashtag, this is going to be an incredible conference all day of online learning with top speakers, including Cheryl Wudun and Nick Kristof from the New York Times, and many experts like Jeremy Kaplan from the CUNY Journalism School, the Craig Newmark CUNY Graduate School of Journalism, who will be talking about all the apps that people should be using. There's a great price involved with all of this, so come join us online on Saturday. Really appreciate it.
Nice. We'll have you drop the link in the comments on the Facebook post. So really appreciate that. So if people want to get in touch with you, by the way, what's the best way for them to do that?
With me, it's at Spin It Social on Instagram, on Twitter, and also I'll give you my email right here. Well, maybe I'll refrain from the email, but I don't want to get spammed galore. But it's at Spin It Social on Twitter, on Instagram. Also, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am a big person who I love LinkedIn. I've become a bigger and bigger fan of LinkedIn. I think it's one of the most powerful platforms out there, and we all need to make better use of it. So look me up, Steffen, Steffen, Kaplan, Kaplan on LinkedIn, and please do connect. And let's stay in touch and reach out to each other and see how we can all help each other.
Awesome. Fantastic. So with that, that's going to do it for Social Chatter episode 233. If you want to get the blog post recap, that's going to go out this weekend, socialchefs.com/SC233. We also have a podcast version and a much shorter Alexa flash briefing, socialchefs.com/Alexa and socialchefs.com/SC podcast. With that, we will see you all next Thursday. We're going to be joined by Chris Stone at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's going to be on youtube.com/socialchefs or facebook.com/socialchefs. I hope you all will take a moment to join us. Chris is a big audio guy, so if you're looking at launching a podcast or tapping into audio on live video, getting really good audio out of it, make sure you tune in. So
be safe, everyone. Be well. And number one thing right now, listen to the experts and flatten the curve. Okay?
Amen.
Right. So we'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.